Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to Alma Analytics Overlap Analysis and Deselection, otherwise known as this was once presented as saving space in the library. And saving space in the library is a big theme nowadays. Not just nowadays, the past 4 or 5 years, it's been a very, very big thing. If you look at the scholarly literature and see what kind of themes are popular, all over the place, they're talking about deselection, which is a nicer word for weeding, for getting rid of materials, either getting rid of entirely materials which either aren't being used or aren't being used and have an electronic format, and taking that same space that's in the library where those physical items were located and making a meeting room or bringing in a 3D printer or even just making a room where users can make coffee and charge their phones. And I want to look very briefly at 3 articles which deal with this. Just so we set the stage here that this isn't just a theoretical idea, some academic exercise of how can we find overlaps between physical and electronic, or how can we identify physical materials that aren't being used and have no relationship to the core goals of the institution, which we'll talk about soon. So this is an article, for example, Weeding with Wisdom, Tuning Deselection of Print Monographs and Book-Reliant Disciplines. It's from the Journal of Collection Management, 2017, volume 42. And this begins, many academic libraries across the country are rapidly reducing their print collections and shifting their efforts to ebooks and new services. So that's talking about in the future, not retroactively changing something. A recent email from the library ebook vendor ProQuest announced that out of more than 400 librarians surveyed, 78% respondents reported that they are deselecting print book collections. So they're taking, it's not just a matter of from here on, we're going to order more electronic than physical. Going backwards, they're deselecting what they've already got in their collection, reclaiming shelf space to offer some other form of collaborative space or lab. And that's bringing in making a meeting room or making a place to make coffee, whatever it may be, they're reclaiming space. This article goes on. It's understandable that academic librarians are. Am I sharing my screen? Yes, I am. It's understandable that academic librarians are quick to reduce their print collections, unburden themselves. I like this expression, from the mantle of the protectors of the book, and to move on to embrace new e-resource and services section. And it goes on, when needs only to attend any national collection development library conference to see the pervasive trend towards revamping library space. You don't even have to attend a National Collection Development Library Conference. You can open up any journal dealing with trends in library science, or go to a conference which doesn't deal specifically with collection development, and you'll see that. Let's take a look at another one. So here we're looking at citations and circulation counts, data sources for monograph uh, deselection in research library collections. This one's from College and Research Libraries, volume 78. And he continues on. The drivers of this activity are the need to conserve building space as new acquisitions fill existing spaces to capacity, the decline in circulation of print books. As ebooks become more ubiquitous, the growth of demands on libraries value space from new technologies, and concerns about dated and obsolete materials crowding out more recent works. And let's just look at one more, even though I see there's a user who would rather we move on. We're going to just move on very soon. This last one here, qualitative and quantitative efficacy of measurement of Terry Library and Information Center resources. This one here being from also College and Research, no, excuse me, from Library Management, Volume 40. And here talk about the demand of user-centric services as more library resources and emerging research fields are added to the library. There have been increasing constraints on space and other physical infrastructure. So in order to free up that space, it's important that the institution knows which physical items can go. And one way, or one of the ways to know how they can go, is either that the material is not being used, or the material exists in another format. So someone commented, I'm going to put all the questions that come in a Word document so everyone can see. And I won't say anyone's name, so you can say anything you'd like. So someone says, come one, I assume the person meant come on. I'm here to learn how to use Alma better. Stop telling me how to manage our collection. Okay, so I won't talk about the articles anymore. However, we can't look at our activities in Alma within a vacuum, that we're just doing them what can be perceived as some academic exercise just to accomplish some goal by moving around reports and analytics and moving an Excel sheet one way. We need to see that this is part of a larger trend, and there's a reason we're doing it. With that said, the first report or dashboard that we're going to be looking at is the overlap analysis. Now, in the May and June releases, we added automatically, according to roles, links to the dashboards. We're aware that some people didn't want these added and they were immediately deleted by request. The majority of the world is glad they're there because there were cases where people didn't even know that these dashboards existed, and now there are automated links here. And one of them that we're going to start with is the overlap analysis dashboard, which is coming from the titles subject area. And let's take a look at that one. So I'm going to go, instead of going right from the link there, I'm going to go into analytics so we can see exactly where it is. We'll go via the catalog option in analytics, design analytics. Okay, so if we go to catalog, we all already know. Okay, so let me put this one here. Okay, so we've got a counterpoint. Okay, love that you provide some articles. Can you share the author title in the chat, please? Yes, I will. I'll do that afterwards.
So I've let everybody know in the chat that I'll put the links to these articles or the citation if they're not available on the page where they can find the recording by tomorrow. And I'll put one more time in the chat. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Okay, so if we go to the Alma folder, now everyone knows the Alma folder from previous sessions, that the Alma folder is the default out-of-the-box reports and dashboards. It's a read-only folder, and the reports and dashboards can be taken from there and saved locally, and we're going to do that as part of our activities today. And we're going to be going to the titles area, because the titles is a subject area, and in this case a folder, which was developed approximately 2, maybe 3 years ago already, which combines all of the subject areas as far as inventory goes. Because if we were to make a report in, for example, the physical inventory subject area, this one here, physical items, then we would only have records that have physical inventory. And if we did it in the e-inventory subject area, we'd have only records that have electronic inventory, digital inventory, only digital. However, the title subject area includes records which have any type of inventory or no inventory. So that's the advantage, that you can do the whole overlap in one subject area. So I'm going to go into the dashboards, and there's one dashboard here, and that's called Title Level Overlap Analysis. Let's go in and see what we've got. So the first tab here, we're going to look at not all of the tabs, but maybe half of them. So the first tab here is called Overlap P and E. Now, throughout this dashboard and Alma in general, when we talk about P, E, and D, we're referring to physical, electronic, and digital. So when we say overlap P and E, we mean an overlap of physical and electronic, meaning that the same record exists with access physical and access electronic. There's one on the shelf somewhere, and there's electronic access. And let's look at what we've got here. I can say, for example, that I want to take an entire shelf. I'll do PQ, which is romance literature, I believe, romance literature, PQ. And then I can say I want only those that haven't been loaned in the last 10 years. So I'm going to say 1. Someone asked if this includes the community zone. I'm going to answer that when we look at the results. I'm changing it to 10 years ago. So this means anything I get now has not been loaned in the last 10 years, which is a little misleading in a way. I wouldn't say misleading, but you got to look at the whole picture. There could be an item which was created 5 years ago, so of course it wasn't loaned 6 years ago. Then let's say we want only material type book. And there's multiple ways to do the overlap. We're going to start with title author combined and normalized. That's a field that includes the normalized title. When we say normalized, we take the title, put it all in lowercase, and then add the first 4 characters of the normalized author. So there's no punctuation, it's all lowercase. And we'll see why that's advantageous in a moment. We can also do it only by title, only by ISBN, only by ISSN, or by OCLC number. And we can also say, for example, if I were to say last loan date and house is today, because I don't care if they were loaned, but I want to know how many times it was loaned, then I can also say how many times was it loaned in the last 365 days. But let's go and look at our results first. Somebody asked if this can also be done by library. It's possible, in fact, perhaps when we customize the report, we'll do it also by library. It's possible when customizing the report here, I'm using the out of the box, to also do it by library because we do have the library name in the title subject area, but we'll get to that soon. So what do we have here? Here's an example of the first one. Say it's obviously the same work. It's by the same author. But this one here has a colon, which is obviously between the subfield A and the subfield B. And this is the without a colon between the subfield A and subfield B. This is obviously the same one also. One has a slash at the end, one does not. This one's got a, this is a nice example. This one has author at the end of author. This one doesn't. This one has a accent over the E in Stephanie and over the E in Malarme. In fact, let's go take a look at this one. And this one does not. But of course, it's the same work. The chances that the same exact author wrote the same exact title, and once with a accent and once with not, is a little 1 in a million, perhaps. So let's see what we mean here. We'll take a look at this one. And sure enough, we have one in electronic and one in physical. Let's take another one. Back to our report. Sorry, I moved this around. I haven't figured out how to take that header of the WebEx and get it out of the way. Let's just scroll down. And here's another one. So this one's obviously the same work, even though one has a colon and one doesn't. So if we were to pop into here and take a look, then here's the question of the person who asked about the community zone. Let me go get the exact question. I'm going into the chat. Whoa, I can't even keep up with these questions. Wow. Someone asked if this includes records in the community zone. I'm not even going to, excuse me, look for it because there's about 20 questions which came in since then. So yes, this does include records from the community zone as long as they're activated in your institution. We're getting all records which are activated in the institution, and this is a perfect example that we're looking at now. The one on the bottom has been activated from the community zone. One on top is a physical record, and it's obviously the same record. I'm going to go into the chat and make it a little larger so I can see if there's another one that I want to answer here. Someone says for find by overlap by ISBN or ISSN, which mark fields are used to make the matches, just the 022 or 020? For the ISBN, there are multiple fields. There's one that includes only the subfield A. There's one that includes the subfield A, the subfield B, and the 77X subfield X or Z. I always get confused which is ISBN, which is ISSN. So it depends. You can use either one. By default, we're using the subfield A. Let's go on. So if we come back to this overlap report, now I'm going to make the chat a little smaller. Sorry about that. And I lost something else here. Okay, we're all set. Okay, so if we go to the bottom here, we can rerun this. Return brings us back. Now, the idea of running this via an LC classification code is we can go directly to a shelf. And let's go back to those romance ones, PQ. It might be that this is an area, perhaps in the past, the institution had a academic discipline in this, whereby they offered a degree or people studied it, and now they no longer do. So all of these items are there, and there's no real need for them as far as the goals of the institution are concerned. They have access to electronic for the same work, and they're just taking up space. So someone can go right to that shelf and say, okay, start looking at them and say, okay, this one we have electronic, this one we have electronic, hasn't been loaned in 10 years, and start removing them. Or not necessarily removing them, but at least moving them to remote storage. Now, this one we're looking at is called ISBN single normalized. So the person asked, where is this coming from? Now, I'm going out on a limb here, and I could get myself in trouble, but I know that we have been very careful to make sure that these are clearly documented. Now, I could really get myself in trouble here because now we might find that we really don't have it. But let's take a look. ISBN single normalized. Okay. So the following new options were added. Okay. We've also got, so that's that we added it to the dashboard. Then we've got the analytics documentation here, which goes by subject areas. And we can go into the title subject area. We can go into the bibliographic details. The bibliographic details is a shared dimension. There are documentations here of where the different ISBNs are coming from. For example, just a pure ISBN is coming from Mark 020A and 776Z. However, the ISBN valid is coming only from subfield A. So, like I said, that one's coming only from subfield A. It's the ISBN valid. It's coming from subfield A. I'm going to go also to the title subject area. I'm in the online help, the regular online help. It's not a special document that was made. And that's going to be a shared dimensions. We want subject areas, titles, and here too. Okay, and it's saying where it's coming from, the ISBN valid is coming from the subfield A. But let's go on and not overdo it on there. So now we're going to do it by the ISBN single normalized. Last time we did it by the author title combined and normalized. And I'm saying it hasn't been loaned in the last 5 years. And okay. Someone asks if digital collections are available for the overlap analysis. We're going to get to that in a moment. So now we're checking by ISBN. So they could have completely different titles, but they've got the same ISBN. And so this is the ISBN that it's matching on. And then these are the different records. For example, let's just grab any. I'm going to scroll down and quickly grab one. There we go. And same ISBN, two different records written slightly differently. And if we come in here and we search by ISBN and we look for that ISBN, we'll have at least those two records. We could have more, but at least those two, here they are. So we've got the electronic. Again, this one's from the community zone, answering the question if this includes records from the community zone. And we said the answer is yes, as long as it's been activated in the institution. And this one has physical. Okay, a lot of chats coming in, and it's things that I love this one. This is great because that's something we're going to show soon. I'm going to put this in here. Someone asks, does that physical inventory count a count of items or holdings? It's items. And if we look at the results, we have here, this is the number of items, not the number of holdings records, the number of items. And when we look at the actual report, we'll see. And we're also going to go and see how we can do an overall evaluation of the numbers in our institution. Okay, someone else asks, I'm going to post this one in. Oops, sorry, opened the wrong one. So someone else asks, does this report exclude those records without LC classification fields then? If we're doing it by LC classification, then yes, it excludes records that don't have an LC classification. And if we do the overlap by ISBN, it excludes records that don't have an ISBN. If we don't have the field to be able to do the overlap on, then yes, those records are excluded. Okay, I think we can move on here. Are there any specific questions? I know there's a lot that came in specifically about the tab overlap P and E that we didn't get. Okay, the person who says I have a couple of additional questions, let's hold on those. I'm sorry we can't get every possible question that comes in. Someone says, if you were looking, let me take this one here, Control C. Okay, so someone says, if you were looking to use this tool for finding duplicate records of e-resources, could you omit the last loan date information when inputting the report parameters? So two things. If you don't want to use the loan date information, then you could set this to today. And then it really doesn't matter. Then, if you only want ones that have electronic inventory, there's a tab here called Only E. And if you only want overlap of ones that only have electronic inventory, there's overlap E and E. Let's go on. So somebody else asked, and I'm not even going to go through the whole chat to look because there's a huge list here, but someone asked something to the effect of, does it include situations where we have a digital, oh, there it is. I'm going to take this one here and put this into the list of questions. So somebody asks, if digital collections are available for the overlap analysis if they are in Primo VE, not in Alma. If two things. There's another 3 tabs here, which deals specifically with an overlap of physical and digital. This only looks at records in Alma. It doesn't look at records which you may have in Primo that you're taking from an external source. This is looking at records in Alma that come to analytics every night. So we have an overlap P and D, which checks to see physical and digital inventory as opposed to the physical and electronic that we saw until now. Oh, I love these questions because we've got answers for all of them. We just don't have time. But I'm going to take this one and stick it in there because we're going to get to this one soon. It's also nice if someone asks, "Can you do something?" and we can because it means we used our development time wisely. In any case, I'm going to get that one in a moment, but I just want to make sure that's in there. So then we've got an overlap of electronic and digital. I'm not going to run all of these. We're already almost halfway through. And then we've got overlap of physical, electronic, and digital. And then we've got a very nice one. Someone says, what is the difference between E and D? What is the difference between E and D? E is electronic. Electronic, by standards of Alma, means I have access to it, but I don't own it. It's somewhere else. This is electronic. It's somewhere else, and I can go access the journal or the book, but I can't save it locally and move it to a different directory and change the resolution. It's not mine. I have access to it. Digital, on the other hand, if I go digital and I look for anything, digital is a file. It might be a video, it might be a picture. This is a file. It could be a PDF, it could be an MP4, almost anything. And it's a file that I can save locally. And if I want, I can change the resolution, move it to a different directory, change the access rights, etc. Because it's digital, meaning I own it. That's the difference between electronic and digital in the words of Alma. Okay, and we'll go on before everyone gets hungry from that one. So let's continue. Now we have overlap P and P. So here we're saying, as the online description states, that we have the same title in 2 different bibliographic records, 2 different MMS IDs. So here we're not saying, oh, I also have that with electronic resources. We're saying I have not just multiple items, I've got multiple bibliographic records. So I'm not only cleaning up the physical space in the library, I'm cleaning up my catalog. Does somebody want to give me a suggestion of a title, a subject, or an LC classification code, just to try to keep it interactive? All the people sending in a chat. You want to send in a chat of something I can search by? DS. Okay, I don't remember offhand what DS is, but let's take a look if I've got that in my demo environment. Someone else suggested PR. How about a title law of? Okay, so we're starting with DS. DS. Okay, so here we are in DS, and that means that these records, I've got multiple bibliographic records, and for example, archaeology in the Holy Land. If we go look at archaeology in the Holy Land, I'm going to have to learn how to get rid of this thing on top that's always getting in the way there. Sorry about that. Okay. So if we go to archaeology in the Holy Land, that's ISBN. We're not going to find an ISBN with archaeology in the Holy Land. We could theoretically. Okay, so I should have here 2 bibliographic records of archaeology in the Holy Land. Kathleen Kenyon. Let me do that by title. Title. And, oh, Kathleen Kenyon, Archaeology in the Holy Land. Okay. She's a very famous archaeologist locally here. Anybody who's into archaeology. She did major works in Jericho. Okay, so there we are. So this is both by Kathleen Kenyon, Archaeology in the Holy Land. Even has the same book cover. Here I've got an item in the storage, remote storage it happens to be, and here I have an item in the central library. So it hasn't been loaned in the last 5 years. I have an item of it in the remote storage, and I also have one taking up space in the central library. So that's an example of one that perhaps I can get rid of. Somebody else suggested PR. Let's try another one with PR. Return. So investigate a little more the interface here, what we're looking for. So we're saying they haven't been loaned in the last 5 years. In this time, PR. What is PR, if someone could enlighten us? PR in Library of Congress classification. Maybe we'll find out by the titles once we get here. Okay. British literature. Okay. So here again, we've got ones here. Look at this one. The Adventures of David Simple by Sarah Fielding. We've got a total of 4 items. It says here items. And these have 2 bibliographic records in the central library, two bibliographic records that have holdings and items in the central library, and then another one in remote storage. So again, it's probably likely that if we removed at least the one in the central library and left 2 of them in the remote storage, we'll still be covered in case somebody wants this. This was created in 2013. It hasn't been loaned at least since 2016. I've got 1 item here in remote storage. Then I've got 1 item in the central library. And then I've got another item in the central library. So 2 items in the central library. And 1 in the remote storage. Now, of course, this doesn't mean, of course, we can get rid of it or remove it to remote storage. There might be all kinds of external factors we know. But for sure, an indication of a possible candidate. Let's say that, a possible candidate. Okay, so let's move on. Somebody wrote in about his retention policy. Let me just see. But items were in different locations in central library. Yeah, we could go on forever on this. We could put in the edition, we could put in the location, we could put in the provenance. What we're getting here is a general population of candidates that might be possible that we deselect them. Somebody mentioned editions here. 2 things on editions. We could add editions here. In fact, let's add editions on the one that we're going to customize in a moment. The thing with editions is, and we'll see that, the thing with editions is 3rd edition, and I know we can normalize it, but 3rd edition might be written like that. It might be written like that. It might be written like, well, it wouldn't be written like that. It might be written like that. It might be written like that. Just as examples. We could normalize and say anytime there's ED period, make it addition. Anytime there's third, make it T3RD. It gets limitless though. We'd have to take pretty much every number, at least between 1 and 9, because I don't think there's more than like ninth edition. But yes, we can go on and on with that. Somebody asked again about the library. We're going to customize the report soon, and when we do that, we're going to include the library. Okay, I'm going to go back down to the bottom, return, and let's continue. So now, return. I'm not going to run any more here. I think we get the, actually, I want to run more. This is the overlap E into E. So these are titles which are only electronic, therefore we don't see anything here about, somebody wanted us to look for law before. So I'm doing word from title law. These are ones that, but I can't promise I got anything on that. These are ones that have only electronic inventory, and it's the same work with two different accesses. So for example, 11th of September and the international law, 6 different portfolios. Abortion law and politics today. Well, let's take one with a little longer title. Abortion law, and I try not to take anything that deals with politics and or religion. So let me go get something else here. Here we go.
You're hitting on all those ones today there.
Yeah, I don't think this is politics or religion, is it? Let's go take a look here. Okay. There we go. Oh, I'm in physical titles, so I'm not going to find that. Once that finishes spinning, I'll go by all titles or I'll go by electronic titles. And all titles and title. Somebody asked an interesting question. Is it possible to find overlap between physical and something with no inventory? It is possible, but not via any of the defaults. Default reports. So what do we have here? They're both electronic. In fact, there's 4 of them. They're all electronic. This one here, for example, is from Gates and Gage, 18th Century Collections Online. They're all by William Law, The Absolute Unlawfulness. This is from Gales and Gage again. Now, there are collections, by the way, that have, within the same collection, have overlaps, believe it or not. Let's go on because, as you know, we're always pressed on time here. I'm going to take this report and let's customize it and include the library. We can include the library as a parameter in the prompts, or we can just display the library. So let me make this larger again. Okay. And let's go now. I'm in Alma Titles dashboards, and we'll go instead to Alma Titles reports. And that's where all of the reports are for what we're showing. And one of them is the overlap P and E. So I'm going to take this overlap P and E. I'll say edit. And then I can save it wherever I'd like. Somebody asked about exporting to Excel. We're going to show that too. Just because it was asked. It wasn't part of the plan. So I'm going to go to the criteria now. So let's hard code this and let's do whatever we want on it. Let's say that we're going to add the LC classification, and we'll add LC classification code. We'll add it for display, and we're going to filter by it. So I'm going to say filter equals HQ. Then another field that we have in the title subject area is under the title details. We have library name, and we have library code. So I'm going to take library name. Now we need to put in the library name physical and the library name electronic, because, or whichever one you prefer actually. But a portfolio can be attributed to a library, and a physical item has to be attributed to a library. So now I'm displaying the library. So let's save this. This is now hard-coded. You notice I don't even have a save option because it's grayed out. I have only save as, and that's because I'm in the Alma folder, which is the default out of the box reports, and it's read only. So I'm going to go to my folders, and I'll call this, I'll save it in my folders, but I could save it anywhere. I'll call this KD for Knowledge Days, 22 June, overlap P and E, by HQ, which is not headquarters, but that's the LC classification code, by HQ with library. Okay. Now, I could, okay. What happened there? Oh, because he put me back there. Didn't I just do save as and put it in my folders? Am I getting confused here? Sorry about that, everybody. KD. There it is. Yes, I did save it. Okay, so I don't need to save it again. Now the prompts, we could start playing around with the prompts. We got 19 minutes left, so we're not going to do that. But we could if we wanted to. And let's see what we're going to have now if we go to results. So it's going to be automatically filtering by the LC classification code equals HQ. And let me go back to catalog and run it fresh. And it's going to be displaying the library. Then we'll export it to Excel, which is not part of the official, my folders, not part of the official topic, but we'll do it anyway. So someone asks, is the classification code from the bib or from the holdings? It's from the bib. Has to be from the bib. The electronic record doesn't have a holdings. Okay, there we go. So now they're all classification code HQ and they're all library. So if I want only those, now those which are electronic, of course, have none. Electronic inventory, anything with a 1 in the electronic inventory column has none because it doesn't have a physical library name. So here, I could either add this to the storage. I see I've got, for example, the Robertson library and the Central library. So I could say anything with Robertson library, I want to exclude, or I could say I want only none in Central library. All different kind of ways to do that. I could exclude this if I want. All different ways. So that's customizing the report. As far as exporting this to Excel, all files in Alma can, all analytics reports in Alma can be exported to Excel. There's always an export option, and you can always export to Excel. Okay, let me please go on. Just cover at least a portion of what we want to cover. And let's go now to a whole nother area, excuse me, in the inventory. And that's going to answer somebody's question. Okay, so we exported to Excel. We don't need that anymore. So we're going back to the catalog. And everything we've done now, up until now, has been in the titles folder. And it's been using the titles subject area. Now we're going to go to inventory. And here again, we have reports and dashboards. And I'm going to open this one, physical items. And we've got here a very overall item count by library and location. Then we've got item, so this is all of the items. Somebody asked about getting count. So this is giving me how many items do I have altogether, and it's defaulting to all, everything. And I'm going to say, for example, if I want only the central library and I want only a specific location, then I can get the count that way. And now I've got 307 items. Then we can do this also by the item process type, all different kinds of ways of getting the counts. But we're concerned here with physical item usage for weeding. So the physical item usage for weeding is a way to get the overall picture of just physical items. How are they being used? For example, I gave the example before, perhaps there used to be a discipline of archaeology in the institution. There no longer is. We don't need to save all of the physical materials with subject archaeology. Perhaps we can get rid of them or move them to remote storage at least, or at least selectively get rid of them. And this is going to look in a library and location, or I can say all, also by material type. What do we have? So I'm going to say material type book. And maybe I'll say subject includes nursing. And the item has a creation date. Let me do even 10 years ago. The item's been existing for at least 10 years and hasn't been loaned for 10 years. Because to say hasn't been loaned for 10 years is not has no meaning if the item was created a year ago. So the item exists at least for 10 years and hasn't been loaned for 10 years. Let's take a look. I don't know if I've got anything in this actually, but we'll find out soon enough. Okay, so these are items. We're not doing any overlap now. We're not doing overlap among the physical. We're not doing overlap between physical and electronic. All we're doing here is saying which items have not been used in X years. When I say used in this case, theoretically, someone could have taken it off the shelf, looked at it, and put it back. It's never been scanned in because that's what's called an in-house loan. When it's just scanned in, but it was loaned to somebody. There are institutions that take the items off the tables at the end of the day, put them on a cart and scan them in, and that's an in-house use. And they know it was used because someone took it off the shelf and did something with it. But these were never scanned in the last 10 years, and they're on the shelves. So they could be candidates to move to somewhere else. And I just want to stress one more time so there won't be misunderstandings. This is not taking into account any kind of overlap. All it's doing is saying, all it's doing is looking at the usage. When we were in the titles, I'm going back to the titles a moment. We'll go up and up again to the titles. Everything in the titles is looking for some kind of overlap. And let me open that. But when we looked at the physical item usage for weeding, all we're doing is seeing, have these been used at all? Now, I want to go to somebody's question. Is that physical? Oh, somebody asked if we can do a count of everything. I thought I pasted it here. Oh, how can you get a total count of P and E titles? Okay, great. So another tab here, which I didn't think I'd have time for, but I do, is the inventory breakdown. By the way, there's also this overlap any inventory. Oh, this could answer the other person's question. So this is an overlap which retrieves a list of titles for which there are at least 2 titles with any inventory. Each title is an MMS ID. So, somebody asked a question about this one before. So this doesn't matter what kind of inventory. In this demo environment, I have physical and electronic, so it's going to look at physical and electronic anyway. But let's go to the inventory breakdown, because that's going to answer the other person's question exactly. Okay, so this has a total, it's got a table format down here, and it's in graph formula here. So there's a total, excuse me, of 2,600,000, almost 700,000 titles altogether. When it says active titles, that means not deleted. Because Alma Analytics includes not only titles which really exist, but also titles which have been deleted. And because for historical purposes, we keep them. And all of the reports we saw now are filtering by active titles. Then the green, those are titles with physical items. It says number of active titles with physical items, 1 million. So actually, of all of the titles in the institution, which is 2,600, 1 million, which is less than half, have at least one physical item. 1,500,000, which is more than half, you can also see it's more than half just by looking at the length of the line, have a portfolio. And then the red one has a physical item and or a holdings record. So there's I know it gets a little complicated, but if people want the, what's the word when you go really in depth, the high resolution? There's 1,118,000 records that have an item or a holdings record, 1,091 which have an item. That means this number, the red number minus the green number, only have a holdings record. Oh, and we have that too. Number of titles, the purple, I believe here. Number of titles with active holdings records, no items. 27,004. There's 27,004 bibliographic records with a holdings record, but no items. That used to be very common for serials. There would just be a holdings record with a summary holdings saying, yeah, we have volume 5 to 7, the years, etc. And if they weren't loaned in any case, there really wasn't a need to start making physical items. Then we've got here number of titles with active electronic collection, 961. And then numbers with digital representation. There's only 8, probably because we were playing around at one time. I'm going to go to the questions now. Instead of moving on, I'm going to try to answer some more questions that came in. So someone says, can we further break down the inventory by material type? Of course, we can break down the inventory by material type. All of the subject areas have the material type. There's material type on the level of the bibliographic record, and there's material type on the level of the physical item, whether it be an issue, a bound issue, a book. And for the bibliographic record, is it a video? Is it a continuing resource? Is it a book? Etc. Someone says, although outside the content being covered today, if you don't mind a related question, I'd like to ask if it's currently possible to compare the titles and coverage of a proposed new journal package, either using the knowledge base or an input file. There's a whole topic which we're going to do. I'm going to put this out just so people know what I was talking about. This is what someone asked now. Compare the titles of coverage of journal packages. So inside Alma itself, as opposed to analytics, there's an overlap analysis. I saw this someone on the line. I don't think people say that word anymore, on the line. There's an overlap in collection analysis, which looks for overlap by various parameters. And there's a lot of work being done on this now as we speak. The new report that comes out is really beautiful. It's not yet live. We're still working on it. And that one we'll eventually do a session on it. It's still being further developed, but this already you can use it. It's existed for years. This is an overlap of electronic collections. So you can play around with this one, but we're not going to go into it now, but that would be the place. Okay. And this person who asks about the further breakdown of inventory by material type, just so we can, I can come in here and say, I want create an analysis. This is a breakdown by material type. Because we don't have here in the out of the box ones, but if I were to go to the title subject area, titles, QRST, and here I've got measures of each type of title, whether they have physical items, whether they have holdings, records, etc. Then inside the bibliographic details, we have material type, HIJKLM, material type, and material type code. This is the material type determined by MARC, which is determined by combinations of the LDR and the 008. And that also, let me see if I can get this out. There we go. Okay. And that also, let me do a search here, is also defined here. For example, if we say CR is one of them, continuing resources, those are by the Library of Congress by the Mark 21. And let me do it this way. Okay, let me scroll down here. Actually, I know where there's something right about it. My spelling is so bad. Okay, these are the resource types. And let me get one of the words here and I'll find it. Sorry. Computer file. Okay. Which is CF. Oh, okay. So these are the different material types: book, journal, record, map, visual, material type, computer file, mixed material. And this is how they're made. If this is in the leader position 6 and this is in the leader position 7, then it will get whatever material type exists here. It's read top to bottom in case there's a conflict, and we can get the numbers of that. So here, I'm not going to filter because I want them all. And then I can mix with this, for example, number of active titles. So I'll add the number of active titles. I'll get rid of the code. So this is going to give me each of the material types and how many titles do I have of that material type. Then I can do whatever I'd like with it. I can put it in a nice chart, bar graph, etc., etc. In fact, let's leave it as it is. And I'll make, what would be best for this? Perhaps a pie, perhaps a donut. If I was in visualization, I do it with a donut. I think we did a donut once with, let me just see if I got a donut here. I'll do it with the bar. So let's do a pie. When there's such a large difference between some of them, like book has 2 million and mixed material has 19, if you do a bar graph, it's useless because one is so big and one is so small. So here's my breakdown. We can make that a little more user-friendly. We'll go into the titles and labels, and we'll go into the data markers, and we'll say, don't just give me on rollover, give it to me always, and give me the value on the percentage. Okay. And then, what did I do there? Titles and labels. Always. Okay. Oh, retrieving data, please wait. Okay, it's working. While it's retrieving data, I can put it over here. There we go. So now I've got the percentages, and I've got the table here. Actually, we don't even need those because we got the table with the actual amounts. So I think we're all set on that. Let me just go there for a minute and into there for a minute and into there for a minute because we'll end off on something nice. We'll put this out into Fusion FX. Fusion FX is one of the exports. Yes.
One of the questions that came in was about the ability to copy. Can you just show, because it's harder for me to explain that, can you show how to copy like the entire folder from the shared folder to a local folder, to a local shared folder?
Yes.
Thank you.
So here we've got the breakdown by material type that the person asked for. Before I show, I know we're almost out of time, but I want to show that I recently did a YouTube video on how to take a default report and dashboard and customize it. So default report, I'm in the Ex Libris. How to customize a default analytics report and save it locally. So that's in YouTube. Everybody can go to YouTube and search for that. And I'll show now how we can do what was just asked. I'm going to stick this. So in YouTube, you've got that. Okay. So I could come here. And also, by the way, if we go to the Knowledge Center and we go to Analytics, and I'll also do the beginning of it. If we go to Analytics, we have how to edit and change a default Alma Analytics dashboard. So that's right here under dashboards. I'm going to send out this one too, copy link location, and we'll send that out. Chat. Okay, so that's everything you wanted to know about dashboards. So if I want to take one of these defaults, I'm going to go back into Analytics, and let's move this one over a tad. So if I go to Catalog, and I go again to the Alma folder, let's say I want to take this default here. I could take it's probably best to take the whole thing because there's links between the dashboards and the reports. So all I need to do is copy this, copy, go to somewhere else. I'll make a new folder here, new folder. I'll call it the copied acquisitions default set. And I'll go into there and I'll just click down here on the bottom left, paste, and that's going to take the entire folder and stick it here. Now, on the one hand, that's very nice. It'll go there in a minute. I copied a lot. However, only do it when really necessary because now you have a local copy, which means anytime, let me just, okay, there we go. So this is, I'm under my folders, copied acquisitions. Now I've got the entire tree that I just copied from the Alma folder. But remember, now you have a local copy. If we Ex Libris update a report dashboard or add something new, you don't have it in your local. So on the one hand, you can customize something, but I would take only what you need and not the whole thing. Okay, so we're 4 minutes over time. Sorry we couldn't cover every question. I think we managed in any case to cover quite a bit. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you in the rest of the sessions. I think we're just about done with the knowledge days, aren't we, Jenny?
We are about done.
On Thursday, right?
Yeah, here's the whole schedule. What are we now? June 20. Oh, no, we still got quite a bit. We got another 3 sessions.
I'm doing Thursday.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so have a nice day, everybody. Bye-bye.
A reminder to everybody, a survey is going to pop up as you leave. We very much appreciate if you take the time to fill that out and give us your feedback. It helps us decide what we present next and what we do in the future. Really appreciate all of your help. Thank you all.